Everyone, we're going to kickstart the session today with the ICANN panel. So I would like to invite all the panelists on the floor. Pierre D'Angino is here, Dr. Nicanor, Bobo Chen, Aziz. So Dr. Ni is going to moderate the panel, and I'll let you start.
I think we've lost a few minutes, so we'll try and keep to time and see if we can recover. The session is an ICANN panel, and the first activity is to get a report on the African Strategy Review meeting that was held while we were here. So without me saying too much, it's my pleasure to welcome Vice President of ICANN for Africa, Pierre D'Angino, to share a report with us.
Good morning to everyone. I'm Pierre D'Angino, VP Africa, in fact, stakeholder engagement, we say, for ICANN. I do have two managers also covering Africa, Yauvi and Bob. So welcome to all. What we are actually trying to do here is share some of the information we have, especially concentrating on the Africa strategy. Strategy that has been developed actually 2 years ago, and as a kind of new form of engagement with the stakeholders, actually, globally, I would say. Of course, started in Africa as a strategy which actually focused on the needs, expressed by the African community, needs in terms of, what were the requirements, for them to actually be fully participating to ICANN. And then that strategy also got some interest, in other regions, to such a state that today we do have some kind of strategy in practically most of ICANN's region. So we started 2 years ago, and then we thought that after 2 years we really need to have a kind of assessment of what has been achieved so far, and also what could be the next step of this. So quickly, in 5 minutes, well, that's what I'm going to do, go through this agenda. So the maybe kind of background to this strategy thing. In 2012, at one of the ICANN meetings in Prague, the incoming CEO met with the African community, and having heard from them, he actually suggested that we come up with, well, what are the needs actually, and how do you express those needs, and how do you actually solve some of the issues that are there. So that's where the whole issue of having an ICANN strategy, for Africa came from. But within this new kind of approach, there were kind of two great ideas around this thing. It's about supporting a stronger presence for ICANN in Africa. During ICANN's meeting in, I think 47, in Senegal, the African ministers also met there, and they issued a declaration, and they met with the ICANN board, and one of the things they were actually requesting was greater presence of ICANN within Africa, but moreover an increased participation of Africa to ICANN. So this led to the creation of the African Strategy Working Group of close to 10 to 11 people. And then that group met here in Mauritius 2 years ago. And of course, with good support from Afrinic. And the group issued a draft document, and that document was circulated, and to request more comments And all of this has been, consolidated to become what is now known as the Africa strategy. Okay, these are the founding members of the working group. Most of them actually are quite what we call iconers, have been there for so many years as well. And we came up with kind of 3 years sort of plan. But the group has only, I think, 1 month to deliver on those things. So the group, of course, covered, so very wide areas, and if you go through the documents, you have many objectives, strategic objectives, and you could also actually translate those into hundreds, of projects. So when I was hired as VP for Africa, and with one of my main, I would say, delivery sort of should be this implementing this Africa strategy. I had to prioritize, so exactly what are we doing here? What are we really starting here? So we start off with a few what we call strategic projects that we felt that actually help make a difference, in the whole, DNS environment, because that document actually was heavily about developing or help support the development of what we are calling the DNS, whatever, industrial market in Africa, because it was clear to everyone that that market really doesn't exist, and if you don't have that market, you cannot really fully participate into ICANN's activities. So one of the first projects that we started was this, what we are now calling the Africa DNSSEC Roadshows, which is quite simple. Well, we have consultants that actually go into different countries that request for it and work with the either the CCTLD manager or registrars, and to do kind of two things, Of course, there's awareness around the DNSSEC itself, but also is you do need those skills that really help you sign your root zone. So that's what we started, and 8 countries were covered. Now we are moving to 12 of them. So basically now, some of them know exactly what to do, and some of them have actually started, signing the zone file. So this is first thing about, securing the DNS from Africa. We also thought that we should concentrate on what we are calling topical workshops, which are workshops that we think can really actually focus on a few issues. For instance, one of the first topical workshops we did was exposing the African community to, well, domain names, for instance, domain names and trademarks, for instance, issues, and the whole issue surrounding the intellectual property, for instance, and the settling, or dispute resolution, for instance. That was quite an interesting workshop, because then that was the first time we were having lawyers coming in and discussing, domain names, and actually understanding also the kind of new field. And it was a great sort of a discussion there between those who certainly knows things, the CCTLD managers, or anyway, registrars, but also the lawyers. And that was interesting, and they requested that should also be continued. Let's say that one big pillar in that strategy was capacity building, and we also crafted an internship program. So we felt that one way of also setting up this African market could be to actually expose some of the entrepreneurs to the business. So we had a discussion with the global leaders, and some of them accepted to enter into this exchange program, whereby some of the Africans could spend some time at some of those global registrars to actually learn the kind of the job, but also be able to come up with concrete, business plans, for this. Because one of the things we notice is that in many places you don't really have a business plan for developing this sector. We also enter into a few partnerships with FTLD, which is the African Association of Top-Level Domain, and also with ISOC on two key, I would say, projects. One of them is the Africa CCTLD study that we actually launching, because that really provides, rooms for. We would like to know exactly what does this environment, look like. Today, nobody can really tell you, we cannot give you a figure on, okay, how many registrations, is actually happening in Africa today. There's no way, there's no resource base that you should go and then say, okay, I can have this information. So one idea there is to set up a kind of observatory on those, on the domain name environment, in Africa, which is going to be kind of byproduct of this study. Of course, one of the ideas also was to enhance, collaboration with the Africa community, and that's definitely one of the jobs, of our managers who will be visiting countries, meeting with different stakeholders, government, civil society, private sector, entrepreneurs, and to explain, of course, what are the remits of ICANN, but also how best they should contribute. And this is happening because we are seeing more and more African members, for instance, on the GAC, more and more ALSs for the at-large community, and much more interest now on even on CCTLDs. Now today you have governments, who just send requests. Say, well, I need to redelegate, my domain, my CCTLD. What are you guys doing exactly? Because Africa is one of those places where we do have, we still have close to 10 countries where this domain name registration is still having issues, and we need to sort them out. And then the Africa DNS Forum, in collaboration, I said, with ISOC and FTLD, which came out as a kind of great initiative to such extent that, well, it's now being replicated actually in other places, and which is good. We also set up this African Domain Name Awards. Didn't exist. We thought that we should recognize those who are performing well and also encourage, the others. Of course, we have engagement mission. We support some of the initiatives in Africa, some of the institutions that we have. We sponsor them. We also collaborate or contribute to the. Now, why the review, actually? Why this review was necessary, and why did we gather another group here during Afrinic 21st? One of the reasons also is that ICANN itself was just, its strategic plan for 2016 and 2020. So I think it was good for us to also align, our strategy to one of ICANN. But I also think that taking stock, it was important for us to take stock of what has been achieved, some of the lessons that we could learn. For instance, very few things that we notice. If I would take the internship program, where everything is quite, was there ready to send, people to maybe Canada or Europe or even Asia. One of the things we are facing today, for instance, is, well, the inability to get a visa. Quite simple issue, but getting a visa was quite important, but this is something we really didn't factor in. And so that's also hampering our program. And then people turn up to us and say, okay, help us solve the visa issue, but we cannot solve a visa issue, for instance. The other thing is, as far as this strategy is concerned, and if you see the ambition of this strategy, you just recognize that it's not going to just be ICANN to bring in all the resources that are needed. So how do we partner, in fact, to obtain whatever strategic, resources to supplement what ICANN is putting in? These are things that we need to do. So we really need to involve the community for that one. So yeah, we brought in the review team. This is the team that was organized here during this, the 2 days to think about this and give us new ideas. Yeah. So the next step, we plan to consolidate and send the reviewed Africa Strategy 2.0 to community for input and comment. And the idea is that we will launch this final strategy document in Singapore by ICANN 52. But we also thought about an enhanced engagement with Africa ahead of this ICANN meeting. Certainly it's going, in Morocco then in 2016, as this has been postponed. So we are working on a specific program to further engage, and the objective here being to bring not only those who are already used to ICANN, but new figures to the ICANN meeting, especially concentrating on the youth and other guys who never, who are not interested in, even for instance, the regulators who don't come to ICANN's meeting, but who are so crucial for the sector. So this is, in a nutshell, what we achieved, and by way of reporting, and ready for any question you may have. And thanks for your attention.
Well, thank you very much, Pierre. I dare comment that in such a short time, you seem to have initiated many important things, and we express our appreciation for that effort. There's a slot for Q&A, so if you allow me, I'll proceed so I can make up some time. The next is to hear something about ICANN IDN program and IDN Africa project. Yavi, you have 15 minutes for that.
Good morning. My name is Yavi. I'm part of the team in Africa. I'm not an IDN specialist, but I think the subject is very important for all of us because in most of the meetings we are having in Africa, people are raising the fact that we need content in local languages. This is what is raised most of the time. We need content in local languages. But even the reality today, like for me in my country, if you have content in my language, do I know myself how to read in my local language? I don't think that we have a very few people in our countries that know how to read or write in local languages. But the point is not there. We need to start that work. We need to start that work so that in some years we should be able not to have content in local languages, but to have domain names, to use the domain names in local languages. So this is what this program is doing, and we have our colleagues working on that. So as Pierre said, in the Africa strategy, we think that it's very important to support also the work that our colleagues are doing by bringing Africans, by making awareness so that we have more involvement from our community. So what is the IDN program in ICANN? We have first the IDN TLD program. So something that is very important is the label generation rule set. So it is very important to know if you have in a language we can have many variants of a label. So it is very important to know which one is valid, how to deal with these variants. So even language experts in ICANN or in groups, they can work, but we need experts from the community, experts from the various languages to work. Not only technical work, also policy people, users, end users. So we need all these people to come together to define the rule set for languages, for scripts we are using in Africa. Also, we have many CCTLDs today in Africa. They are just using the ASCII, the domain name, the CCL. They are using ASCII, but we know in some countries in Africa, we are using our local languages in Africa, even for administration. They use local languages. I can say, for example, in Rwanda, we have official document in the language. In Ethiopia, so you have official document. People are using these languages to work. But it's very important also to move, to see how we can work, we can be included, we can be part of the various working groups, so that we move with our CCTLD managers or CCTLD organization, how to go to the IDN fast track. So this fast track process implementation is a program where I can access CCTLD to implement the CCTLD using IDN. So that is also one part of the work. Also, ICANN is promoting policies, and then because it's very important for users to minimize the risk, the confusion. So this is why it's just not a question of technical people. It's a question of everybody, language experts, policy, etc. And also what we are doing during this meeting in Afrinix is the last one, the communication and outreach. Because we need to keep telling people that is very, very important to start the process. To start. As I said, most of us, we are not using our local languages. But it's very, very important to start the process as we can. So, as I said, currently you have only few domain names, TLDs in IDNs. So most of them in Africa, it is ASCII TLDs. So in the IDN program, we have the inclusion now of other languages, other scripts. So it is what we are doing, or what we want to mention through the slide we have on the screen. So for the domain names, the TLDs, we have two aspects. Some of them using ASCII, what we are used to, and also moving to the IDN. Even when we have the ASCII, how to also ask the IDN for people like where Arabic script is very important. So when you have your CCTLD in ASCII, so how to move and have the CCTLD in Arabic. So that is the IDN part important to work on. So there is a need of a rule, to have a rule. Which character can form a label? So if you take a language, for example, using a certain script, so which label is valid when you have, in some case, a variance? So it is very important for a group of people to think about this. So when there is confusion, what are the rules? What should we do? So that's the work very important, for which the various panels are very important for this work. So what I want to also say, because of the time, on the slide you see later the various phases, what had been accomplished. So you have, for some languages, you have people who are making progress in some languages, like in Arabic, Chinese. And you see, it's very difficult to see African languages there. So when we talk about languages, it's very important, because many of the African languages, they are using Latin script, for example. But there's no work going on for these languages. So it is very, very important to join the various groups. So some progress have done. You have some various projects. So we can see more detail when you see the slide. So what I want to also show in this slide, you can see the status of the generation panel, what we call the generation panels, the various panels. Like if you see the forming panel, You take the Latin, for example, the Latin panel. Some months ago, there was a call which went out to many African lists asking for volunteers to join panels. But at least last week, the information I had, there was no volunteer for the Latin script people to join this panel. So one of the objectives of this session is to call you again to share the information to the community in your country, to say that it's not a question of engineers, a question of technical people. It's a question of everybody, the end users, so that we start the work. Even if you are not using the local language, like in my area, Ewe, for example, is very important. I read Ewe, I don't know how to write very well Ewe. But it's not a question of having the content in Ewe. No, it's a question of having, for example, the domain names in Ewe. So to start that, we need to have various panel a panel to work on this. So it is a call so that we share information so that the people, the various community can join. So on that screen, for example, you see the progress on the various panel. The one that have seated, the one meeting, there is a lot of progress, Chinese, Arabic, Korean. And some point, like if I take the Ethiopic, for example, a few days ago, we are receiving some interest from people regarding Ethiopic. So on that slide, you see no progress, but I'm sure that in the next days, things will move better for these languages. And if you see any languages, there is no limit. Any languages or people that are not aware of this program, so you just send an email to the contact, to address we have on the slide, and then they will be contacted. So you have many resources for outreach. You don't need to be an expert to help in the outreach. You have various blogs. You have the community wiki. You have a lot of information there. You have the IDN specific part of the ICANN website. You have various mailing lists, and you have some video that you can also watch or you can share with people. They are on the slide. And then on the last slide, you have a lot of links where you have questions and answers to some basic, related to basic information about IDN. So I thank you for your attention, and this is what I want to share with you.
Thank you very much. This subject is very important because some of the languages may be getting lost, so we should really try and participate. I do caution, though, that we are not only Latin script. Some of it is mathematical script, so it is perhaps more complicated. Anyway, I move right on, and I'd like to invite Bob Oshien. Please do your best to stay within 10 minutes, if you can, so we can catch up on Q&A.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning. So mine will be very brief, the best of my ability. I know we are very constrained for time. But I want to talk about an update on the new GTLD program that ICANN is running, the status to date, and where we as Africa, which is the most important thing. At the same time, because of time, we also want to announce that most of this information has been captured in some of the flyers that we have outside there. So you have something on the journey of the new GTLDs, which you can take with you for further insights. It gives you quite the history and where we are today. So just very fast, the agenda today will be just an introduction. Then the journey, of course, as I've mentioned, some of it has already been captured, and you can have these flyers. Current status, and what has been created as a result of this program in terms of new safeguards. And of course, we'll have a whole session for Q&A. So you will realize that the new GTLD is something that has gone through a very long journey. In fact, the first GTLDs were introduced into the root zone in 1983. And at that time, there were only 7 GTLDs. And sometime in 1985, a second series of GTLDs were introduced. But this was before ICANN was formed. So this was before 1998. When ICANN was formed in 1998, this process was energized. And as one of the first activities that were taken between 2000 and 2001 was to do kind of a test on really what is the impact of new GTLDs on the root. And during this period, ICANN also presided over another set of GTLDs. And this gave birth to actually the realization that it was important to expand the GTLD space. Now, this work is done by the GNSO, a constituency within ICANN that actually comes up with policies that guide the introduction of GTLDs. So between 2005 and 2007, the GNSO took a comprehensive policy development process to analyze and come up with the correct procedure that will guide the internet community in terms of developing the new GTLDs. And the result of this was what we call an applicant's handbook, which you can find online. Of course, this went through a lot of iterations, and each time there was an opportunity for the community to give their input and come up with the next version. And it was until 2012 that the final handbook was actually adopted. And this led to the first application round for the current massive new GTLD that we are introducing. So with that, I think for the last 2 or so years, the internet space has greatly changed. As you will see in our statistics, in 2012, when the call for applications was made, a total of, as you've always heard, almost 2,000 applications were received. But I think, as always, our focus has always been on what was received from Africa, which you can see has been only 17. Now, the purpose of this presentation is also to highlight the need for the community to also support this awareness to our consumers, apart from also enlightening ourselves on the potential that you get by going for the new GTLDs, but also becoming our foot soldiers in advising our clients. Most of the time, end users only know that a domain is only a .com. So I think it's also a challenge to all of us to also enlighten our clients so that they know the current and the number of choices that they have today. This has not been a reality to date, and maybe this is one of the explanations to a few GTLD applications that came from Africa. So to date, as at last month, over 500 new domain, new GTLDs had been introduced into the root. And as you see in this breakdown, initially we had only 22 GTLDs, the .coms, the .infos, and the rest. But we have since added a total of 566 names as at last month. And out of this, 48 of those GTLDs are IDNs, as Yobi was saying. So again, the question is, how many of those IDNs are African? But this is the status. So therefore means that you have plus choices to make on what name you want to register. So what is new? What has this brought into the internet space? Of course, those that are in this business know that there is a new registry agreement specification that addresses .brand owners. Of course, there's improved GTLD reporting. We have a portal for registrars. And we have now a multilingual internet, of course, enabled by the IDNs. The most important element of this is the power that this has given to the end user, and that is the focus in terms of competition, in terms of innovation, and in terms of choice. We all remember maybe 5 years ago what a .com name would cost and what it costs today. And that has been enabled by competition that has been introduced by the new GTLDs. So it's about improving competition, innovation, and choice to the end user. So examples, of course, are IDNs, regional names, like .Germany, .New York, of course, .Africa. Finally, we will have it. We have community names, .water, for example, as a water-consuming community. So all these are possibilities that have been made available courtesy of the new GTLD program. But of course, with that expansion, of course, new challenges have come. We all know that today the issue of trademarks is very critical. If I register Coca-Cola .something today and I'm not Coca-Cola, who is liable, things like that. So as a result of that, ICANN has introduced new safeguards. One of them is the Trademark Clearing House, where you can register your trademarks. Of course, there's security at the DNS, which we are promoting even in Africa through our DNS roadshows to help us secure the DNS. And of course, the Uniform Rapid Suspension System and the post-delegation dispute resolution procedure. So these are new safeguards, might not be exhaustive, but at least they try to address the challenges that this program has brought to the internet community. So today we are talking of a possibility of, let's say, 1,300 plus names. But of course, in future rounds, this will expand even further, which means that we are seeing a possibility of having .anything as a name. I think because of time, I'll invite you to visit those links for more information. And of course, we are also around for any questions. Thank you.